week's episode of Ushio and Tora. Both Ushio and Tora battle against an ancient insect demon, which takes the form of a stone samurai, who turns his victims into rock and then devours them whole. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Ushio and Tora is a time capsule for the 1990s. I mentioned in my previous review that it's based on the Ushio Tora manga series, which started in 1990, and I love how this series isn't compromising any of that original creativity. It's all up in here. This totally feels like an old school anime series, and it's a lot of fun for that. This week's episode was all about Ushio and Tora going to school and fighting against this ancient samurai demon. What was really important about this episode, though, is that both Ushio and Tora's relationship is starting to develop a little bit. Tora the Tiger Demon is absolutely fantastic in this week's episode. I still love the fact that even though he doesn't claim that he cares about protecting Ushio and wanting to work with him, his real deal is that he just doesn't want any other demon to eat Ushio. If anybody's gonna eat him, it's gonna be him. The problem is, Ushio has the spear with him at all times. He even decides to bring it to school, and this leads to another new problem, because apparently the school is housing this weird rock-eater demon which takes the form of a stone samurai, and what it does is it actually draws in people, it creates this barrier, and when we walk inside of the barrier, it traps you, it poisons you, it turns you into stone, and then it eats you alive. It's pretty freaky, and I actually love the fact that Tora is probably helping out Ushio in this week's episode, mostly because the enemy that they are fighting against is indeed a samurai. He seems to hate samurai. When he sees him on TV, he'll completely destroy the TV. He's reminded of the samurai who actually sealed him away hundreds of years ago, and that's why I think he sort of subconsciously wanted to get his revenge against the stone samurai in this week's episode. But this one was again another introduction to Ushio and his classmates and all the crazy things that are going to be going down. It also firmly establishes that other people in the series now know about the existence of Tora and the other demons, because at the end of this week's action-packed episode, there's a massive explosion where they see these demons fighting in mid-air, and they catch it all on tape, they air it all over the place, so now the existence of these two is well known for everyone, and I can't wait to see what sort of repercussions that's going to have later on in the series. But very similar to the first episode, this one was just an action-packed comedy fun fest. I love the comedy in this show, and I'm still really surprised by that. It almost seems a little too intrusive, and you almost want the show to go into this like super dark territory, but when you have these scenes of Tora who's being all menacing and intimidating, and then suddenly he gets smacked on the head by Ushio and his spear, and he goes into this like cartoony mode, it's really funny, and there are times when it's very abrupt and it just comes out of nowhere. There's a scene this week where Tora gets really pissed off at Ushio, he tries to attack him, and then suddenly he just gets bonked on the head and starts acting like a freaking cartoon character from the Looney Tunes age. It's really damn funny, but that's not to say that the action is not really cool. I especially love the look of the evil stone samurai in this week's episode. Kind of looks like your stereotypical samurai made out of rock, but he's got all of these weird, creepy, glowing-looking eyes that are actually inside of his body, and he has these like snakes which come out all over from himself, like from his eye sockets, which he can use to poison people and turn them into stone. It looks really freaky, and it's really creepy how he's just turning all of the classmates into stone, and now everybody knows that these demons are going to be around, and yet they're still going to be going to school every single day. I just think that's really damn funny. So, Tora is in a situation here. It looks like that Ushio is going to be killed by this rock-eater demon. He loses the spear, he's being transformed into stone, and Tora figures, well, this seems like a pretty good opportunity to just run away. It's kind of a pain that I don't get to eat him, and that's when he realizes, crap! Someone else is going to kill Ushio before I have a chance to eat him, so with the power of him and the fact that the spear decides to take over and literally has like a mind of its own, where it slams right into Ushio and gets rid of all of the rock. I'm not quite sure how that works, it literally looked like it impaled him, but it doesn't matter. It almost seems as if the spear has like a will and mind of its own. It ends up like getting both of them in the room where they can fight against this guy, which ends up exploding into the air, and that's when we learn that this stone samurai's true form is actually this giant two-headed centipede monster, and that's when Tora gives him this very big tip, which I still don't get why it works, but apparently when Ushio spits on the spear and stabs these things in the eyes, it destroys them. Apparently these demons are weak to human saliva. I think that's pretty strange. Maybe they'll elaborate on that later. Either that or it's just a completely random tidbit that was given off by Tora. All I know is it made for another really fun episode of the series. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Ushio Tora? If you like late 80s, early 90s action anime series, check this one out. It's just really fun. It's not exactly the most creative and inventive thing that I've ever seen before, but it's just fun. It just gives me that old school anime feeling, which only so many shows have actually managed to do, and I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. But this episode, again, was just more about the development between Ushio and Tora. I especially love the fact that Tora is literally haunting Ushio. That's the reason why he never leaves his side. There's a lot of scenes in this week's episode where he's straight up just riding on his back, and it looks really funny because he's just a big, massive monster taking a piggyback ride on this tiny Japanese high school student. I think it's really funny, but he does come in handy a few times. There's a scene where a baseball's about to hit him. He ends up just swatting that away. The problem is everybody sees this baseball explode in Ushio's face, and even after this week's episode, people are going to have to start realizing something's not quite right with all these demons showing up and Ushio over there, and even his friends are probably going to start noticing. Otherwise, this week's episode was just a lot of fun, great development for the characters, some great action scenes, tons of comedy, new characters from the school who showed up, and now that everybody knows about these demons, I'm sure things are just going to snowball and get even crazier from here. What I will say is, this was a fun, action-packed, demon-filled episode of Ushio Tora, and I'm really glad that they decided to do another adaptation of this series, because it's just a lot of fun. I love it. It's totally just an anime for the anime lover. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, Ushio Tora fans. Whether you read the manga version or you're just jumping into the anime version, watch this episode. You might see something you like. So I like this episode quite a bit. But what about you guys? Did you watch this week's episode of Ushio Tora? What do you think about the developing relationship between Ushio and Tora? And what do you hope to see from this brand new anime series? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it and share it with all of your friends. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.